become Batman, then you can't play the character. You know, I mean, he's evolved. You know, this is a more mature Bruce Wayne to how he becomes Batman, why he becomes.
Most actors protect their image. Christian Bale destroyed his on purpose. That's why he got the one Batman role that couldn't afford safety. This Batman was never meant to be safe. The role demanded someone willing to lose control of their image to gain control of the character. Someone who understood that symbols don't protect you, they consume you. Hold this thought as you watch. Would you preserve who people expect you to be or destroy it to become something necessary? Watch the full story. Because understanding why Christian Bale worked as Batman means understanding why this role punished comfort and rewarded obsession. Before Christian Bale became Batman, he had already made himself a problem for Hollywood. Not because he lacked talent, but because he refused to behave like a traditional leading man. Bale disappeared on purpose. He chose roles that erased him instead of elevating him. He starved his body for The Machinist until he looked skeletal. He rebuilt himself for American Psycho, then vanished again into characters that frightened studios as much as they impressed critics. Hollywood likes reliability. Bale offered risk. He didn't maintain a recognizable image. He didn't protect his appearance. He didn't preserve a brand. One year he looked fragile. The next he looked dangerous. Audiences stopped knowing what to expect, which made executives uneasy. Talent alone isn't enough in this industry. You have to be predictable enough to sell. Bale refused. He wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing truth inside characters. That obsession earned respect but not security. Studios admired him from a distance. Too intense, too serious, too difficult to package. He wasn't a movie star in the traditional sense. He was an actor who disappeared so completely that the spotlight struggled to follow him. That made Batman an unlikely intersection. A global icon offered to a man who avoided icons entirely. A franchise role offered to someone who had spent years running from permanence. And yet that refusal to be defined was exactly what made him right. Batman did not need someone who wanted the symbol. Batman needed someone who understood what it costs to live inside one. By the early 2000s, Batman was not feared. He was familiar. Bright colors, toy lines, catchphrases, spectacle without consequence. The character had drifted so far from his roots that audiences no longer felt danger when he appeared. Warner Brothers didn't just need a new actor. They needed to convince people to take Batman seriously again. Christopher Nolan understood the problem immediately. You cannot fix Batman by making him louder. You fix him by making him real. By asking what kind of person would choose to dress as a symbol and fight crime at night. What kind of pain would drive that decision? Nolan wanted gravity, fear, moral weight. Bale did not audition to look impressive. He auditioned to look damaged. He leaned into Bruce Wayne's fractures, the loss, the rage, the confusion. This wasn't a man enjoying heroism. This was someone choosing it because the alternative felt worse. Casting Bale was a gamble. The franchise was already wounded. One more misstep could have buried it permanently. But Nolan didn't want comfort. He wanted commitment. Bale offered that in abundance. He didn't promise safety. He promised honesty. And that honesty was dangerous. Christian Bale understood immediately that Batman does not begin with strength. He begins with fear. With a child standing over loss he cannot undo. Bale treated Bruce Wayne's trauma not as backstory, but as the engine driving every choice. The discipline, the isolation, the obsession with control. Batman was not a mask worn at night. It was a response to chaos that never left. Physically, Bale transformed yet again. Brutal training reshaped his body into something imposing. But muscles were secondary. The real work happened internally. He studied restraint, stillness, how anger lives just beneath the surface of controlled movement. Bruce Wayne wasn't pretending to be Batman. Batman was the identity Bruce allowed himself to live inside. Bale played Wayne as someone fractured by intention. Public charm became camouflage. Wealth became misdirection. Everything about Bruce Wayne existed to protect Batman's purpose. And that inversion mattered. It grounded the character psychologically. Batman wasn't about justice as an abstract idea, it was about survival through structure. Pain turned into ritual. Fear turned into focus. Bale didn't play a hero rising. He played a man organizing his damage into something functional. When Batman Begins released, audiences felt the shift immediately, even if they couldn't fully explain it yet. This was not fantasy or spectacle designed to sell toys, it was consequence. Batman fell, he bled. He misjudged situations and paid for it physically and emotionally. Bale stripped the role of Polish and replaced it with intention. Every movement felt deliberate. Every fight looked painful. Gotham itself wasn't stylized or romanticized. It was filthy, corrupt, and unforgiving, a city that chewed people up and normalized fear. Batman didn't rise above that world. He was born from it. Audiences didn't cheer Batman the way they had in past versions. They believed him. And belief is far more powerful than excitement. Batman felt necessary rather than impressive, like a reaction to a system that had failed its citizens repeatedly. Bale grounded the myth by making Bruce Wayne's decision feel heavy, not heroic. He didn't make Batman inspiring in the traditional sense. He made him understandable. A man choosing fear as a tool because nothing else worked. That understanding restored something the character had lost: fear. Batman wasn't cool, he wasn't flashy. He was committed, and commitment made him terrifying again. In The Dark Knight, Batman faced something far worse than criminals or violence. He faced chaos with intention. The Joker didn't want money, power, or control. He wanted to expose how fragile order really was. Bale played the strain of that confrontation with brutal restraint. Batman wasn't solving problems, he was absorbing them. Every choice forced him into moral compromise. Every victory came with damage that couldn't be undone. You could see the cost accumulating. The voice hardened, not to sound intimidating, but because the weight of responsibility crushed anything softer. The posture changed. Shoulders carried tension instead of confidence. Even stillness felt heavy. This wasn't a hero climbing toward triumph. This was a man choosing to endure damage so others wouldn't have to. Bale understood that Batman's strength wasn't dominance. It was willingness. Willingness to be hated, to be misunderstood, to be blamed. Batman became legendary in this chapter not because he won in any clean or satisfying way, but because he stayed when walking away would have been easier. He carried chaos so the city wouldn't have to. By The Dark Knight Rises, Bruce Wayne was no longer a man hiding pain behind purpose. The pain had won. Bale leaned into that reality without trying to soften it. This Batman was tired in a way that muscles couldn't fix. Injured bones healed slower. Old wounds lingered. The city he saved no longer needed him the way it once did, and that hurt more than any broken rib. The symbol had worked, but it had consumed the man beneath it. Gotham survived because Bruce Wayne kept choosing sacrifice over self, night after night, year after year. And eventually, the body and the spirit both reached a limit. Bale played that exhaustion with quiet honesty. No speeches, no glory, just the realization that staying would destroy him completely. When Bruce finally chose to step away, it didn't feel like surrender. It felt like survival. Batman didn't save Gotham by staying trapped inside the mask forever. He saved it by trusting that the city could stand without him and allowing himself a life beyond pain. Bale didn't become Batman because he wanted to play a hero. He became Batman because he understood obsession intimately. Batman is not about strength or dominance. He is about control when everything inside wants to break. About discipline when emotion threatens to overwhelm reason. About turning pain into structure so it doesn't destroy you from the inside. Bale brought that understanding into every frame. His Batman wasn't comforting. He wasn't aspirational in an easy way. He was difficult, heavy, human, and because of that, he felt real. Bale didn't present Batman as a fantasy figure. He presented him as a consequence, a choice someone makes when grief refuses to fade. That is why his version lingered long after the trilogy ended. Every Batman that followed had to respond to what he established. He didn't just wear the cowl, he redefined what it meant to carry it. Christian Bale's Batman didn't work because he looked heroic. It worked because it showed what heroism actually costs. This version of Batman wasn't safe, polished, or comfortable. It was built on obsession, discipline, and the willingness to be misunderstood for the sake of something larger. That's why it stayed with people long after the trilogy ended. Now I want to hear from you. Which part of this story changed how you see Batman, the obsession, the sacrifice, or the decision to walk away? Leave your answer in the comments, and if you want more deep dives into why iconic characters truly work, subscribe. Because the roles that last aren't the ones that protect comfort, they're the ones brave enough to destroy it.